Bugatti, Jean and Artur, father and son, were geniuses. They created some of the most beautiful cars in automobile history and made some of the fastest cars. They won the races during the time at Grand Prix at Monaco. They created also incredible pieces of moving sculpture. I'm standing here next to a Type 57C Atalante Bugatti. This car is one of the greatest barn finds ever discovered, and it just recently turned up, and I'm so excited to be here today. I mean, this is like standing next to, for me, standing next to a Chippendale untouched highboy made in 1760 with the original patina. It's got all the original parts. It doesn't get better than this. This makes me get up in the morning, it makes your heart start beating. I'm gonna come over here and meet the owner of the car.
Well, Les,
and Leigh's here too. The amazing thing is we're here with Dennis Nicotra and Scott Sargent. I just have to do this. I gotta do this.
Hey, I'm gonna do it.
I gotta have to both you guys. Dennis is the owner. Dennis is the man that bought this car. And you're going to preserve it. Scott Sargent, who does the conservation. And I mean, the great thing about Scott is that he's a preservationist, and he restores cars, but he doesn't polish them up. He doesn't replace all the leather. And with a car like this, he's left everything original that should be original, right, Scott?
Absolutely. It's very important to preserve the fingerprint on how Bugatti made this car.
And how do you do it with something like this? Did you just leave mostly everything alone?
Exactly. Document it, leave it alone. Of course, we had to make it run and make everything work, but there's some cleaning involved, but just to show the original paint on the chassis and some scraping on the engine, but pretty much it's an exercise in just not touching it, just preserving it the way it is. Why wipe away the history and the fingerprint of how this car was made?
Dennis, what caused you to first purchase this car, go after it?
Well, I first read about it in the Christie's catalog, and it had a great history. It's a body design that I've always loved, and I said, gee, if this car is as good as it sounds, I'm going to go after it. And I had somebody go and look at the car for me. He said, this is really a real car. He said, it's as good as it gets. He said, you feel comfortable, you put your number on it, but I can tell you, you're getting the real deal here. So I bid with confidence, believe me.
So as I understand it, this amazing work of art sat in a garage, right? For over 40 years?
For 45 years,
45 years.
1962.
How did it come to sit there this long?
Well, it was owned by John Strauss. John Strauss was the grandson of the founder of Macy's. Unfortunately, he went down with the Titanic in 1912. Oh. The whole family were car enthusiasts. His dad, I believe, had a 1930 Duesenberg. So John Strauss, he was a real car enthusiast. I've been told through the family that he would drive this car from his home in Pound Ridge, New York, to the train station every day, right, and get on the train, go to New York, go to work, come home, drive the car home. This was his transportation, and up until 1962.
I wouldn't do that, you know. Let's look at the car. We're next to this car. My heart's beating right now. Aren't you excited? This is so great. So what about the body here? This body, how many did they make of this particular body?
They made about 40 of this Atalante styled bodies. Most of them got supercharged chassis underneath them. Bugatti offered a few different body styles. This was probably one of the more handsome ones they offered. Gangloff actually built this body for Bugatti.
Okay.
Gangloff was the manufacturer. It's all aluminum.
All aluminum. So as when aluminum was an amazingly, fairly new material, it was being used in all sorts of things, especially cars, right? And it's very streamlined. I mean, the curves are great. And part of that's for aerodynamics, right? I would think.
Oh, exactly.
Now, wasn't this at the World's Fair? Or is that...
This body, it's body number 32,
right,
was at the World's Fair 1939 in the French Pavilion.
Okay, so right at the height of the Art Deco period,
exactly,
right, in the French Pavilion. And then was put on this chassis early on, is that it?
When it was about 8 years old, a gentleman owned two cars. He owned a Gangloff convertible, right, and he literally swapped the body and put this Atalante body onto a supercharged chassis that was underneath the Gangloff convertible.
Within a short period of time.
8 years. It was
8 years afterwards. So
very acceptable.
That's acceptable as part of its early life. So that's not considered a major restoration because it's part of its history.
Absolutely.
I mean, and how about the paint scheme? I mean, usually this is the black enamel, right? What's the story on the paint?
This was originally black with a black stripe down the side, probably in the very late 50s they painted this very dramatic spear, the cream color, very, very common paint scheme of the era.
What I love is it is part of its history.
Continuing
I mean, it was done over 50 years ago, a half century ago, so you leave it, right?
Right.
I mean, it's part of its life.
We have some photographs of the car from the 50s. In
That's
the
great.
early 50s, it
Black
doesn't
and black.
it doesn't have this accent,
Right,
and
okay.
later in the 50s, it does have it. So we know that somewhere in the mid 50s, that this was done to the car.
Now, Bugattis like this were built for speed. I mean, they were fast machines. It's a 3.5 liter engine, right?
It's 3.3 liters,
Okay.
twin overhead cam,
Twin overhead cam.
supercharged.
Now that's a beast.
It's about 180 horsepower.
For that period of time, this would have been about the cat's meow in terms of speed. So it combines the elegance with incredible power. And what I love is that you usually look in these cars today at the concours and they're all polished up. And I'm looking at the original tool marks on the aluminum, right, on this brace.
The apprentices did that. They used chisels. It's called bump flaking,
Okay.
just to give some decoration to the firewall supports.
Incredible to think about decoration inside where the engine is, right? And this is
Also, the engine turning is done on the firewall, and it's just concentric circles laid on top of each other to give a little decoration to the engine compartment. They were very proud of their work.
Look at that. It's just a subtle detail the Bugatti used, right? Yeah, and even plus this black enamel paint on the electrical Original here, paint, it's Leigh?
Oh,
all
exactly.
Yeah, it hasn't
Look,
been messed with. Does the wiring look original even?
The wiring is original, and Bugatti brushed a shellac on it for preservation, and the complete wiring harness is shellacked and original and very, very rare. You can't move it because it breaks. I don't think I've seen that in another Bugatti, the original wiring harness.
It's incredible. 1938. I mean, look at that. That's now over here, all original aluminum, and I can feel the tool marks here.
They also hand scraped the top of these cam boxes, and it was for just slight decoration, but it was very slight, and typically over the years that would polish off. It was so slight.
Now, as far as numbers go, that's so important, I know, in a car, and I see here a 350 here. Is that a sub-serial number, or what is that?
Yes, the 57C number here is on the sump,
Right.
and that is the engine number and the front axle and the transmission and the rear end number. The 350 is a sub-assembly number, and that's on the supercharger and the intake manifold and the water pump housing
Same number.
and the flywheel. That same number.
I mean, that's incredible. So,
and the cam boxes. It's indexed to every single sub part on the engine.
so
You
to
can't beat
have
it.
that stay together is just a miracle.
It's amazing.
It's a survivor, a true survivor. And is the chassis number, can we look at that next?
This chassis number 57766 here on the engine is also on the data tag on the other side.
It's on the other side?
Yep.
Well, let me, you did replace the spark plugs, I hope, right?
No, no, these are the spark plugs
Oh my
that
gosh.
came in the car
Oh my gosh.
when it was in the barn.
When it was in
They're
the barn.
champion, you can see
I
them.
love it.
They're
I love
ancient.
it. So those are half a century old.
Absolutely.
Right?
I
About half
brought a
century
set
old
of new
spark
plugs just with the car. But
Just in case.
These work.
But this is running. This
They
is running
run.
with these.
They
I
run.
love it.
I
Oh, that's
didn't
great.
know that.
What do
Are
you
you
think
telling
about
me
it?
the original spark plugs went
Yeah.
back in this car?
That's real cool.
What did I pay for? Holy
I
cow.
love it. I think you got a bargain, I'll tell you. When I saw the price at auction, I think it's, oh my gosh. Talk about, it's called a sleeper in our field. Absolutely. I think it's a
Yeah,
sleeper.
exactly.
Now, Scott, what are these little divots that are here coming down this little crease in the fender?
These are wonderful. When the body man was making these fenders, he had to literally draw a line to put this beautiful thin crease in the fender. And these are where he took a prick punch and he pricked the material just literally to draw himself a line so that he could form this nice crease in the fender.
It's incredible that the witness marks of the making of it are still there. That's always, those are always
That's the
taken away.
fingerprint that typically gets
Yes.
wiped away.
Oh, that's incredible.
These
I love
little,
it.
these little pinpricks right here.
That's the best. It doesn't get better than that in terms of originality.
Right now, it's as good as it gets. This is the last registration sticker for the car in 1962 for the state of New York. So we're just going to leave it on.
So you might get a ticket if you go out on the road with that, right?
Well, you're certainly going to get a conversation out of it.
That's for sure. So Scott, tell us about that.
Well, the Bugatti designed these aluminum backing plates to take the Lockheed brake system so that he could put hydraulic brakes on his Type 57s.
Okay, and these cooling fins here, all original, everything?
Everything. The drums are all original, certainly. They're not even damaged. These typically get broken, these fins, but they release heat from the drums. You couldn't take this cap and put it on another tie rod end because there's a hole that lines up. It wouldn't fit. So you have to find that cap to fit this tie rod in.
Amazing.
And that's how specific these cars are made. The front axle and all of these components, the
Oh, right
tie
here.
rod end and the steering arms are all nickel plated.
Right here. Look
And
at
you
that.
can
But
see
I
remnants of the nickel all over them.
love the fact the patina on here looks old, and not only old, but original.
Original nickel.
It's
Exactly.
amazing. Yeah, great. Dennis, do you mind if we look inside a little bit?
Absolutely.
Let's go to the driver's side. What an interior. Wow, look at this. Oh, you know, I get that scent when you open this. It's like a great
Bugatti,
82
right.
Bordeaux,
Right.
you know, it's better. This is 1938.
We were shocked that the leather held up as good as it did in all those years.
Well, just looking at the door here, we're wood guys, and this looks like mahogany, right, Les?
I think it is. Absolutely.
And is that the original varnish, would you say?
Exactly.
I'm just amazed it survived so
survived
well.
that long.
Even this little pull seems okay. I mean, that does, actually. So what has been replaced inside?
All of the interiors of the seats basically just died from age.
Right,
The stuffing. The leather's not been touched, other than it was, oiled and lubricated to keep it soft and supple. But as far as new leather, there's no new leather at all on it.
So you just restuffed them?
Had to restuff them. Had to take the seats out, restuff them,
Okay.
and bring them back to life again.
And what about the carpet? That looks a little bit...
The carpet is the only thing we couldn't save. Unfortunately, the carpet, just from age and sitting there, it deteriorated. So
But
if you vacuum it, you just vacuum up all the carpet.
But did you say the
we have it. We have
fragments?
the carpet. Yes, we have the fragments.
That's great.
But that's the only thing that we really couldn't save.
Considering the fact that usually the entire interior is replaced, and most 38 cars,
like even
that's incredible.
headliners, all original, all the wood, the door panels, dashboard. The dashboard's incredible.
The
really.
dashboard is...
It's just incredible.
Look at the wood on that. So does everything work?
Everything works.
Everything works.
Every single
Oil
gauge
pressure,
works,
water
without
pressure,
exception.
the surface on the steering wheel, the chrome right here. And what is this gauge on the steering wheel?
It's like a stopwatch. I think he did rallying, so he put a
that's
stopwatch
great.
there in the middle, and then he
look at
put the
that.
horn button down lower.
The felt here on the interior roof looks absolutely original, and that is just so
It
rare
is.
because that usually just gets replaced.
I know it.
One thing that I learned on this car that is really fascinating to me, I've seen a few of these Bugatti Type 57s, but the map pockets were always, when they're done over, they're always the same size. This one has a big sweep on the forward one and a smaller one in the back.
So wonder why,
I
for
know.
maps?
But this is a map pocket,
That's for
exactly.
maps.
This is very dramatic because of the big sweep in the front. I think it's probably access for the handle and for this little pull strap.
Well, I just find it amazing that this little pull strap, in over 60 years, 70 years, right, didn't get broken.
Still survives.
That still survived, that little
Yeah.
tiny strap.
Yeah.
Well, I tell you, this is for the maps. This was for the present for the girlfriend or the
Yeah,
wife
there
when
we
you hid
go.
away. You put it in there, you kept it safe, then you pulled out the flowers, right? I'll tell you one thing. This car would have been a gal catcher, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's got the girls.
It still
I'll tell you
is.
that. And it still is, right? Dennis and Scott, thank you so much for having Leigh and
You're
I over
welcome.
today to see this incredible
you.
masterpiece. But you know what? We just can't leave unless you fire this baby up. Would you mind giving it a try for us?
What do you think?
Can we hear it?
Yeah, sure. Let's
All
try
right.
it.
Thanks a
Okay,
lot.
all right.
Thanks. See if those original spark plugs still work, right?
That's
Okay.
right.
Okay. Smooth. Well, Dennis, you mind if we take this for a spin?
Well, we're going to fit 3 people in there?
You gotta let me drive. I'm a better driver than wait a second. I'm driving. No, I'm driving. He's a
Okay.
slow twin.
All right, we'll hop in. Let's see.
Let's go.